Looking ahead to the trading week beginning February 12th, something unique we're going to need to look at as we go into a week where the previous 5 weeks have all been positive on the stock market, and that's the U.S. Treasury yield to stock market correlation. If you look at the 90-day correlation, actually go even out to the 180-day correlation between the S&P and the 10-year note, in the 90-day correlation, it's been a negative 90, which means yields lower, stocks higher in the 90th percentile. So that's a pretty good inverse correlation or negative correlation. Or yields higher, stocks lower. But if you look at the 30-day correlation, the last 30 days, it's gone to positive 49. And that's something we saw as we went on the week where you saw yields up for the second consecutive week across the curve, double digits, and we saw stocks rallying. So for the last 2 weeks, makes sense that that's been happening. So keep an eye on that correlation as to where the yields continue to go higher next week. Is the stock market going to repeat the positive week that we saw this past week? We get inflation data next week in the form of CPI on Tuesday. Estimates, are for no change at all in what we saw in the last CPI read. And if those changes are there, they're minute, if anything. So it wouldn't necessarily change that the market still has 5 rate cuts through 2024 priced in, still low probability in the next meeting. So we'll see if that affects those odds at all and could affect yields obviously as well. Commercial real estate concerns are something we want to look at as well. It's showing up in some regional banks, like the price action we saw in New York Community Bank last week. And there's also some signs it's starting to creep into other countries. There's a major German regional bank saw its bond slump on concerns about its exposure to the sector. So keep an eye on that along with the price of the dollar and what that does to other commodities. Now, data next week on the earnings front, we have 318 companies reporting with market caps over $1 billion. The largest one being Coca-Cola, the smallest $1 billion market cap company being Paramount. We also have 76 tech companies reporting. And so it's a pretty big week with additional names like Cisco Systems, Applied Materials, Shopify, Deere & Company, Airbnb, Marriott International, Occidental Petroleum. We've also got more Fed speak next week. Likely so far just Fed Governor Lori Logan and Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari set to speak. In terms of economic data, Monday, January Japanese PPI data, Tuesday employment data in the UK, EU ZEW economic sentiment and that US CPI, Wednesday UK inflation data, EU GDP and Japanese GDP, Thursday UK GDP data, US retail sales, jobless claims, industrial production in Philly Fed, and then Friday, US housing starts, PPI in the US, and the February Michigan consumer sentiment data.